No. No, it's not real. It's not here. This doesn't exist. I'm not seeing it. It's just in my head. Get out! Get out! Get out of my mind! Just leave me alone!
So, last time we looked at a horror film, and as we're still in October, I thought we could keep that theme going by taking a look at a horror game. There's plenty to choose from, but I've decided to take a look at one that I actually haven't played before. A game simply known as Eternal Darkness. Yeah, you heard right, I have not played this before, so this should be interesting. Or I've definitely heard about it, and pretty much all of what I've heard has been good, but no, I've never experienced it for myself until now. That said, popular opinion doesn't necessarily mean squat. After all, there is a market for stuff like the Transformers films, Gears of War, and... In any case, am I in for a treat, or is this game just an overhyped trick? Well, there's only one way to find out, so prepare yourself for Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem. Let's begin with the basics. Eternal Darkness is a horror game for the Nintendo GameCube set in a creepy mansion. Which is something we've never seen before. Actually, that's not entirely fair. You see, our protagonist, Alex Roivas, is investigating the mansion after her grandfather's brutal murder. While doing so, she comes across a secret room where she finds a rather special book known as the Tome of Eternal Darkness. This book contains the stories and memories of all those who have crossed its path over thousands of years, and allows those who read it to relive certain scenes from their lives. In effect, this means that although the story technically focuses on the events in the mansion, this book allows us to travel to other times and locations, like an underground temple in the Middle East, another temple in Cambodia, and a cathedral in France. So yes, this book can literally take you anywhere.
Very funny.
The first time reading the tome, Alex, and by extension we, relive a scene from the life of a Roman commander named Pius Augustus. He is being guided through an ancient underground temple by a mysterious voice, eventually coming across 3 mysterious artifacts.
You must choose. But choose wisely.
After doing so, he is transformed into an undead warlock known as the Lich, and becomes the slave of one of 3 so-called Ancients, a group of godlike creatures attempting to enter our reality and engulf the universe in eternal darkness.
He chose poorly.
Anyway, that's pretty much the premise. Evil gods are trying to destroy the universe, and you have to find a way to stop them by reliving the events found in the pages of the tome. I wouldn't say it's the best story I've ever heard, but at least the tome itself is a clever way of diversifying the level design, and believe me, I've heard far, far worse. Either way, the story is more than acceptable, at least for me, so let's instead focus on some other aspects of the game. The visuals, for example, are pretty damn good, especially for a game of this era, but if anything, they may be a bit dark at times. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a complete idiot. I know that it is supposed to be a dark cave or unlit room or whatever else, but there are times when I think they just fucked up the lighting, making things almost impossible to see. In fact, why is lighting such a major issue with the horror genre in general? What, are hauntings and demonic possessions just a penalty for not paying your electric bill? I also really hate that although the game has a widescreen option, they still box in the cutscenes. I don't know what the hell kind of idea this was, but for some reason, you have to watch every cutscene inside of a little box in the middle of the screen like you're watching them through a fucking mail slot or something. Okay, so it's not exactly the biggest problem in the world, and for this review I can just crop the image and everything's fine, but still, that shit really irks me. Speaking of the cutscenes, it's also a bit annoying that you have to sit through them each and every time. You can't skip them, ever. You may not think that's such a big deal, and for the most part I agree, but you'll quickly see why it's a problem when and if you come to a spot of the game where you die multiple times. Why? Well, because this game has precisely 0 fucking continues. That's right, no continues and only 1 life. Brilliant! Now, before you all stomp on my nuts, no, this isn't really all that bad. I mean, you can save your progress at pretty much any point of the game, but still, it gets pretty damn irritating having to sit through the same fucking cutscene for the umpteenth time just because you're struggling a bit in a particular section of the game. Having said that, it does feel like the game really goes out of its way to prevent you from struggling too much. The various mechanics and systems are just spectacular, and in all honesty, it probably has the most accommodating control scheme of any horror game ever. No, actually, it definitely has. Seriously, you'll be hard-pressed to find any game, especially a horror game, with such a smooth set of controls and mechanics. Everything just works, and when you die, it mostly feels like it was completely your own fault. It never feels unfair. Take the combat, for example. Especially before this came out, most other games of this genre usually had sort of a tank-like control system with some relatively imprecise aiming. Here, you actually have the ability to select the head, body, or arms of your opponents, making combat smooth and relatively hassle-free. Well, that's great, really great, I absolutely love it. I just have one tiny little question. Why didn't anyone else do this? No, really, what the hell is so fucking difficult about coming up with a decent control scheme? Okay, so things aren't quite so bad anymore, and I am talking mostly about the horror genre here, but still, I'm amazed it took this long for someone to come up with something good, and even more so that no one really copied it since. Either way, the controls fucking rock, but the targeting system isn't the only trick the game has up its sleeves. It also relies rather heavily on its magic system, especially as you get further and further into the game, and luckily, it's just as good. As you progress through the game, you'll collect various runes that each symbolize one part of the various magic spells, which you'll find on these scrolls. You'll also need to find and collect the so-called codexes in order to fully understand and utilize the runes, and finally, you'll need the circles of power. Once you have all these ingredients, you can cast an eventually fairly wide range of magic spells by combining a circle of power with the required runes. You can also assign your already learned and most used spells to one of the 5 quick spell buttons in order to cast them without having to access the menu. Don't go thinking that you can just start casting spells willy-nilly though, because there are certain limitations. Firstly, you only have a set amount of magic energy, some of which gets used every time you cast a spell. The more powerful the spell, the more magic energy you'll need. Thankfully, it is fairly easy to refill your magic energy as it regenerates whenever you're moving. This means that if you're ever low, you can just run around the room for a bit and before you know it, your energy's maxed out again. Now, I know this sounds like it might make the game a bit easier. So anyway, yeah, maybe this does make the game slightly easier, but that's not really the way I would look at it. I would say it just makes it a bit more convenient and enjoyable. Honestly, if you're ever faced with an opponent you need a certain spell for and you happen to be low on magic energy, it is kinda nice to know that you always have a way of refilling it. Besides, it's not like it necessarily matters anyway. I mean, just because you manage to refill your magic, it doesn't mean you'll be able to use it. You see, in order to successfully cast a spell, you have to stand still while it's being cast. Move or get hit before it's finished, and it fails. At first, this isn't really such a big problem as most of the early spells won't take that long to cast, but you'll eventually have to be careful with your timing as the more powerful spells will take quite a lot longer. Ultimately, this only adds to the enjoyment of the game as it helps to balance out the challenge of it quite well. While we're talking about the magic energy, you may also have noticed that there actually are 2 other energy meters in this game. The red one is simply the health meter, but what about that weird green one? What's that about? Well, that one is all about this game's party piece, the so-called Sanity Meter. So exactly what does the Sanity Meter do? Oh, not much. Except for completely fucking with your mind. Okay, so maybe I'm simplifying things just a tad, but honestly, that is sort of what this Sanity Meter does. Whenever you encounter one of the many demonic creatures of the game, they will usually lower your Sanity Meter. Sometimes this may not seem to do anything but get it low enough, and all sorts of fucked up things can start happening. I'm pretty sure I haven't even experienced half of the things that can happen, but just as a few examples, I've had the camera go to a Dutch angle, the music and sound effects have changed, blood has started dripping down the walls or from the ceiling, and that is just the beginning. Some of the weirder things include having the screen seemingly cut out as if the TV was shut off, suddenly sinking through the floor as if the game was glitching up, and even getting a fake promotion for the next chapter of the game. Okay, that is just cruel. I mean, it's one thing to fuck with my mind, but teasing us with the possibility of a sequel when there isn't one? That's just mean. Anyway, this whole Sanity Meter thing is a really fun addition, but it is a bit of a shame that you technically have to play badly in order to experience the scariest, most intriguing, and almost fucked up moments of the game. Oh, you can easily decide to play with the Sanity Meter near to or completely empty most of the time in order to see most of the sanity effects, but that will cost you a fair amount of your health as well, so it's not exactly recommended. Apart from that, the only things left to mention are the alignments of the magic spells. You see, there are 3 different alignments to choose from, and most spells have slightly different effects based on which you choose. For example, the recover spell can either be used to recover your health, Sanity Meter, or both. This is all pretty neat, but that's not the only thing these alignments are used for. The thing is that these alignments have a bit of a relationship with each other. The red alignment, based on the powers of the ancient Chattur'gha, is superior to the green powers of Xel'lotath, but weak against Ulyaoth's blue magic. There's also the purple powers of Mantarok, which gives you power over all the other alignments and affects multiple parameters when used, but as I didn't complete the optional mission that unlocks these powers, I haven't actually experienced them yet. This all means that there's a fair amount of strategy involved in several battles, especially certain boss-like fights. Going up against a strong enemy aligned with Chattur'gha? Well then, why not enchant your weapons with the powers of Ulyaoth for a better chance of victory? In addition, there is one final thing these alignments have power over: the endings. That's right, I said endings, plural. This game has 3, which at least gives it replay value, but I'm not sure I like how it's handled all that much. You remember that moment I mentioned where Pius has to choose one of 3 artifacts? Well, that's what determines the outcome of the story. The 3 artifacts each represent one of 3 ancients, and the one corresponding with the artifact you choose will be the one you'll have to defeat. Okay, so this is at least fairly straightforward, but it also feels so artificial. What I mean is that although the game technically gives you a choice and it does have 3 endings, it just feels like they're forcing you to play it 3 times in order to see everything and to try and make the game seem slightly bigger than it actually is. I don't know if I explained that well enough, and believe me, there are far, far worse offenders of this sort of thing out there, but either way, I'm a bit torn on this one. In any case, that's about all I have to say about this game. Well, except for this. It's fucking spectacular! Yeah, it has a few minor problems here and there, and I'm not sure it's quite as scary as I would have liked it to be, but for every little flaw I can come up with, there are about a million huge benefits. The story is pretty good, the setting and atmosphere are chillingly awesome, and most importantly, the gameplay is just fantastic. The controls, the mechanics, the very interesting sanity thing, it's all near perfect. Like I said, there are some issues, and I do think some people go a bit too far with how much they praise the game, but it honestly isn't by much. Eternal Darkness truly is one of the best experiences you'll ever have, and it deserves to be in every single gamer's collection. If you have any way of doing so, you need to check this game out as soon as possible. Absolutely no one should avoid this game if they can avoid it, and if you disagree, I have only 3 words for you. Play it again. That way you'll see just how wrong you are. Anyway, that's my review, and next time I'll be looking at... Huh. That's weird, I can't seem to remember. Huh. I know it was a film. A pretty dumb film. No. No! No!
No. No. It's not real. It's not here. This doesn't exist. I'm not seeing it. It's just in my head. Get out! Get out! Get out of my mind! Just leave me alone. Take me back. Please. Please just take me back. Back to the real. Back to the good. Take me out of this lie. It can't be true. All hope is lost.
Wow, that was one spectacular video you just saw, wasn't it? Well, guess what? Now you can help make future episodes even better. I know, doesn't seem possible, right? Well, it's true. Simply click on the link to my Patreon page, select the amount you want to donate, and click Become a Patron. By doing this, you will not only allow me to increase my liquor budget, make the show better, but you'll also be able to collect several wonderful rewards, such as access to exclusive videos, your name in the credits, your choice of topic for a video, magical powers, immortality, and much, much more. Well, what are you waiting for? Follow the link, make your donation, and become a patron today.